The history of beekeeping is long and varied. We've been trying to gather a sweet product ever since we were hunter-gatherers.
And I look at these guys and they've been doing this for 80 million years. I've been doing it for 16 years.
Once you open up a beehive, I think they literally look like some sort of alien organization. Hundreds of individuals all doing different things.
Honey is one of the purest forms of sweetness. Everywhere wants a bit of honey.
Have you ever tried what we call proper honey? It's like eating flowers.
The bees could survive without us. We wouldn't survive as well without the bees. Beekeeping, it's an art form that opens so many doors. It gets you into Mother Nature. It teaches you about how the bees and the plants talk to each other. Then you see the results from the fruit that they pollinate. You see the way that they talk through their dances. You learn so much through working with bees. You get stung, but you develop an immunity to it. My name's Jitesh Patel. I'm a beekeeper for Sutton Coldfield. I'm also chairman for Warwickshire, and I'm on the education committee for various associations. I know people who've been keeping bees since the 70s, even the 60s, and for them it has changed. In those days it was much easier. Originally people were doing it more for the green credentials, or just pollinating their gardens and having a couple of jars of honey for home use. And there were commercial beekeepers like Rouse and stuff who have gone on to make huge empires of honey.
Lots of people have by now become aware that in many parts of the world bees are in trouble, only they've heard about the wrong bees. So the bees that are in trouble are the thousands of species of wild bees. My name is Professor Lars Chetgan, and I'm the author of the book The Mind of a Bee. The media focus tends to be very strongly on one species of bee, and that's the managed honeybee. They're a domesticated animal that does not need saving anywhere in the world. Adding more honeybee colonies to the environment, and that includes urban environments, actually aggravates the problem for all these other bees.
In 2000, the London Beekeeping Association couldn't even form a committee. By 2012, the London Beekeeping Association had hundreds of members and was boasting that it trained 80 new beekeepers in London every year. And it is very much to do with fads. So I think that, there's been a lot of commercial improvement in people's attitude towards bees, but not in terms of the way that the bees are treated or the way they're more responsibly kept in London.
It's not the honeybee that's the problem, it's the way it's managed. The bottom line is that honeybees are so efficient. A colony has thousands of foraging worker bees, and because they can communicate, when they find food source, they send the whole workforce out, they strip it. Wild bees mostly fly much shorter distance. Honeybees will fly 4 or 5 kilometers to find a food source, and they will exhaust it.
So we know there are loads of honeybees in London, the most densely populated city for honeybees in Europe, probably the world. While people talk about bees and they all think that we mean honeybees, the actual diversity of bees and their lifestyles in the UK is dramatic. And honeybees are really the most versatile, the most voracious, and because of their ability to adapt, really extremely numerous. So the danger that we face in London is that this absolute carpet of honeybees, 3 times more than in any other European capital in density, will outcompete, will out-eat, and will put stress on the other native pollinators.
In London, we've identified that, ironically, the Save the Bees campaign has been detrimental because there's a lot of misinformation and even disinformation. There are commercial interests, businesses coming to London to persuade businesses to have bees on their roof for a fee, and no regard for how the bees are going to live, and that's just one of the factors that's driven the densities up very high.
We know there's a lot more disease, we know there's a lot more overwintering death, so undoing what we've done in terms of building this vast pyramid of honeybees in London is important.
Bees are icons of conservation. It's often forgotten that there are lots of other species of bees that are as fascinating, and they're not being kept by any beekeeper. They keep themselves.
We're changing what we do, and it's up to us to lead this change because we understand the problem. Other people have chucked bees onto rooftops in London in the last 10 years, so we're in a position where we can actually lead and say, well, we understand the problem is, we're going to take our bees away. Even though our bees were here long before your bees, we've still got to do that for our sake and our bees, and we've got to be leading by example. We can't just sit here. So that's what's happening here.
And we have a schools program where we take bees, live bees, into schools. It's a very different experience for them. And remember, these are urban kids who often no experience of wildlife at all. Transformational wouldn't be too strong a word for it. And that's one of London Beekeepers Association goals, is to try and change the narrative so that people understand that if you want to help bees, don't keep bees, plant flowers. It's that simple.
A world without bees would look very dull. You take the bees away, you take the pollinators away, then of course all these plant species that have flowers and that depend on pollinating bees won't have a chance to survive.